Hey everyone, it's Dawn with TwiceShearedSheep.com, and I'm just going to kind of talk at you a little bit today. I get asked a lot by friends and by Knit Club members. Knit Club is the email list for our website, and I get asked a lot, hey Dawn, do you have a recommendation? Do you have an idea for a pattern for such and such? Hey, I have this great yarn. Any idea what I can make with this? Hey, I really want to make this kind of a shawl. Hey, do you know of a pattern to do this? I'm going to share my secret with you because 99% of the time when someone asks me for a pattern recommendation, I go directly to my favorite website for all things yarn on the internet called Ravelry. Now, I'm going to date myself a little bit and say that I remember when Ravelry first got started. I remember when when they were building the website, and there was a waiting list to join Ravelry. It was in beta, and they were trying to create this thing on the internet for knitters and crocheters and everybody to create a database of patterns. Also to create a database for you to keep track of the patterns that you have and the yarns that you have and the needles that you have. So there's one centralized place. And Ravelry has become a lot of things over the years since then. It's got a very robust forum community where you can ask questions and you can get help. It's got all sorts of clubs that you can join, where you can join a knit along, or you can do a swap where you can send each other presents. And Ravelry is such an amazing, wonderful fiber sort of mecca on the internet. But my number one favorite feature of Ravelry is their pattern search ability. That the community at Ravelry does such a phenomenal job of essentially inputting almost any pattern that you could want. Now, no, they're not violating copyright. They're not putting the actual pattern out there displayed publicly for everybody to see, but it's an index of all of these patterns. So you can look up patterns that have been in major knitting publications, patterns that have been in major knitting books, patterns that have been produced by independent designers, patterns that have been created by average knitters out there who want to share something. You know, my very first patterns that I designed were published on Ravelry as a free pattern. Well, actually, they were published on an old vlog that I had way back in the day when I had tiny little humans living in my house. Now they're much bigger humans because I have teenagers, but that my very first patterns were specifically designed towards the blogosphere, which was knitting blogs were really popular, and I posted them on Ravelry so that people could find them. In fact, I have this little baby sock pattern that has been knit I don't know how many times because it was a free pattern that I just shared with the knitting community, which is always wonderful. So there are free patterns, there are paid patterns from individual designers who are selling their new designs. There are designers that you are probably very familiar with who pretty much only sell on Ravelry. And they're PDF downloads and easy to store, and you store them in your library on Ravelry, and they're fantastic. But the website can be just a little bit tricky to navigate sometimes, particularly if you're brand new and you aren't quite sure what this whole thing is all about. So this week for our YouTube orbit, I'm going to help walk you through and take your hand and show you my favorite parts about Ravelry. It's kind of like walking around my favorite neighborhood and say, hey, have you seen this awesome thing? Have you seen this awesome thing? So come take a walk with me this week, and we're going to walk the streets of Ravelry. I'll see you tomorrow.